Good evening, it's Crash Talk, and I'm Mike Harber, your host, and we have another very interesting episode tonight with another old friend of mine. I keep finding that all my friends are getting old. I'm not getting old. It's all right here, right? But let me give my disclaimer because we got to make sure that everybody understands we're not giving legal advice. And some of the content tonight is going to be, I'm sure I could be accused or my guest could be accused of giving legal advice. Simply, it's based on years and years and years of experience and really some good information. Hopefully, open up your eyes to what is going on and help you to maneuver a claim if you find yourself in a situation where you've got an insurance claim. So neither I, Mike Harber, Crash Talk, Harber Appraisal, any of my associates, employees, or my guests tonight we will not be giving legal advice. If you need legal advice, you need to seek that from a practicing attorney in your area. So with that, let me just give a little bit of a background on the gentleman that is on tonight. Rocco Avellini. And Rocco has been around the block. Started out repairing vehicles back in the 60s. Ended up having a tow truck company and ended up towing vehicles. Learned about that end of it. He was also a salvage manager at a salvage yard, a wrecking yard, a junk yard, whatever you want to call it. Nowadays, to be politically correct, they're recyclers. Hey, depending on where you grew up, we used to call them junk yards. Anyway, he also was an independent appraiser. He was also a national property damage supervisor for a major insurance company and had quite a number of people that were under his direction with that insurance company. His resume goes on and on and on. It's actually 7 pages long, and I don't want to bore you with all of that. I just want you to know that Rocco knows what he's talking about. He's been there, done that. We're going to have a very interesting session tonight. So with that, let's turn it over to Rocco. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. You're 5 years or so.
You're one of the what? How do I say it? You're one of the founding members of this uprising in people's rights and trying to help people level the playing field. You know, I've always said it's the playground bully. The insurance companies are like the playground bully. And if it wasn't for people like you and I helping consumers, they're just at the mercy of whatever the insurance company is going to do or say, and they don't know. They just don't know.
Well, but one of the things is that insurance companies, when someone's in an accident, the insurance companies make it sound like they have a HMO type of policy, a medical policy, which means that, you know, the book that you get when you have a PPO or an HMO, you know, you have to go to a doctor, you have to go to a hospital, whatever the case may be. In a collision policy, it's what's called a full indemnity policy. They have to put you back. If you remember the Farmers commercial, we'll put you back where you belong. You remember that one a few years ago?
Oh, yeah.
They were only stating what their duties are. They need to put you back where you belong. The other thing that people don't understand in the collision, insurance companies have no standing in the repairs of the car. None at all. A consumer.
What do you mean by, what do you explain no standing? What does that mean?
They have, because of the policy, they're called full indemnity policies. They can't tell the insured how and where to fix the car. It's just that simple. Basically, let's just use these numbers. Say someone has a $20,000 car and they get an insurance check for $10,000. That consumer can turn around and call a rebuilder or a salvage yard and say, hey, listen, I have this 2015, whatever, I believe it's worth $20,000. I have an insurance company check for 10. Do you want to buy this car for 10? or 9. If the consumer wants to turn around and say, you know what, I don't want to go through this headache, I'll take 19 instead of 20. They get the 9 and the 10. They're made whole. They are made whole in the made whole law, and it's over. The insurance company can't force you to fix your car.
Right. Exactly.
And
Now,
people don't understand that.
a couple things I want to I always like to point out specific things. You're talking about really good stuff, things that people need to know, and this is why you need to always use your own insurance company for the property damage. You never want to use
Right.
the at-fault party. You don't have rights with that other insurance company. You do with your own. The
other part of that, Mike, is that if you're looking to collect damages from the other party's liability policy, you want to protect that policy. You want to keep as much money in that policy as you can in order to get your out-of-pocket expenses, diminished value, rent a car if they didn't give you a comparable rental car, things of that nature, because you have the first right of subrogation. No one can, and this is from back in the rec check days, you know.
Okay, wait. we have to be careful with terms. So again, you're making great points. So you said so you want to make sure because there's a limit on how much money is in that liability policy.
You're going to get into that, yeah. In California, the limits are, believe it or not, in California, the minimum limit you can get to drive in California for property liability is $5,000.
You're kidding.
No, 5, 10, 15, 25, 50, 75, 100, 200, 300, $500,000, and $1 million. Those are the breakdown. In Nevada, it's 10,000 is the minimum.
Yeah, it's 10 here. It's 10
so,
here.
Getting back to the minimum policies or leaving the money in there, if you have an out-of-pocket expense for, you had to pay for a rental car, or whatever the case may be, or if you want to, try to recover loss of value, diminished value on your car, you need to leave that as much money as possible in the liability policy of the at-fault driver. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And again, just for clarity for everybody, because this is the kind of stuff that gets people so confused. And everything that you're saying, when somebody else hits you, you're making a claim against that person under the liability portion of that policy. And if the limit is, let's say it's $10,000, and your vehicle has $15,000 of damage, and you're using that up.
Well, in that case, if you call up the other party and you say, I have $15,000 worth of damage, they only have a $10,000 policy, they're going to tell you to go to your insurance company for collision. Absolutely. They won't even entertain that.
But the point that you're making, which is a really good point, is that first off, the consumer, the innocent party, the one that was damaged, they have the first right to recover for their loss from the at-fault party and their insurer. And so under your own policy,
subrogation, correct.
Right, it's called subrogation. And under your own policy, there may be limits on what they will pay. Not only limits, but there can be also exclusions. For example, in our state, when you make a claim against your own insurance company under collision, there's an exclusion for diminished value. They won't pay that. And they may not be paying for a rental car, but you have the first right of that money that's sitting there in that liability policy for the other party. So what you're saying is that you want to make sure you protect that so that you can go after it for items not covered under your policy.
Correct. And the theory is well, the insurance companies in many cases turn around, well, we have a right to subrogate. They do, but their only right is to the money that's left over. For instance, if it was a $25,000 policy and you took $15,000 of it, and the insurance company spent $15,000 to repair your car, they only have $10,000 to recover.
Right.
The theory is this: insurance companies are there to protect you against the loss. if they have the first right to go and get the money from the other insurance company and leave you without the ability to be made whole or to recover, what are you paying insurance for? You just might as well self-insure yourself.
Right.
If you're just keep putting the money in the bank that you're paying for collision insurance, and when you need it, take it, because that's exactly what the insurance company does.
You know, and it's something, and I wonder sometimes if adjusters with these insurance companies are dumb like a fox, because we deal with this issue regularly where they jump in and it's called subrogation. They will jump in and go get the money back for the cost of repair before the consumer or their insured even had a chance to go and make a claim.
Exactly right. It's scary, you know, and that goes to the point of, you know, the insurance companies. I mean, the consumer is not educated. To go back, are adjusters, would you say, stupid or unknowledgeable? Well, back in the 80s, I took a break from my collision life to go to work for an insurance company. And I was promoted to a national manager, property damage manager. And I had about 1,000 adjusters under my supervision, Mike. You know what it is? It's embedded in them at an early age. If you remember back in the 90s, 80s or 90s, Allstate made a campaign to go and get appraisers and adjusters right out of college. The reason was they indoctrinated them how to think, how to, you know, the body shops are bad people. They're going to screw you, da, 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 da. That's the way it is. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah, so there's an attorney that I met in New York City by the name of Gene Kill. And you may have been in his seminar. I think it was in Chicago. And he was a speaker, and I got to spend lunch or dinner or something with him. And I asked that question. I said, well, how do these adjusters that do these things that they do affecting people's lives, how do they sleep at night? And you know what he told me? He said, it's very simple. You know what he said?
They think it's right.
Well, yes. He said, it's a cult.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what a cult is. You indoctrinate, you drill it and drill it and drill it to where they believe what they're doing is for the good of all. And they don't, it's like, well, we're going to talk about a situation a little bit later about a single lady with a special needs child that was thrown in the midst of a collision and a bad repair, and you know, she's on her own. So it's yeah.
She was until she, you know, got in touch with the attorney. She was, yeah. But you know, the thing is that, you know, when we look at these photographs, you know, you have to wonder why a collision technician would even think about, special needs child or not, would even think about putting a car like this back on the road. It endangers everybody. You know, I remember I testified in front of the California Senate, you know, 1999 on insurance. It was for improper repairs, diminished value, returning salvage cars to the road, and DRPs.
DRPs. What's a DRP?
Repair program. That was a generic term back then. Now, you know, all insurance companies have their, you know, their logos for whatever it is, you know, for their referral shops.
And those shops, just to be clear to our listeners, those shops that get the benefit of referrals from the insurance company, they have a signed contract behind closed doors, and they can't share that with the consumer that comes in for a repair. So the consumer has no idea that there's a side agreement with this insurance company to do certain things like imitation parts and saving money and given kickbacks. They're required to give a kickback.
They give money back for parts and labor rate discounts and things like that. Absolutely. So getting back to the California Senate, Jackie Spear was the Senate leader back then. She invited me. You know, back then it was 99 and they were doing this, and people, they were looking for people around the country to testify. And, back then it was the heavy hitters, and people kept saying, in California, call Rocco, call Rocco, call Rocco. So I go to testify, and I put a great presentation on, better than the Bureau of Automotive Repair did. So Jackie Spears starts the meeting with, back then, we were there Wednesday. Monday, the LA Times ran an article saying that 58% of the doctors in the HMO programs, PPO programs, lie to get the proper care for their patients, because if they didn't, they would not be covered. Let that sink in. It was an article. So she turned around and says, I hope that's not happening in the collision industry. So I raised my hand. I said, I got to respond to this. I said, Senator, let me ask you a question. Whose job do you think is more important, a doctor or a collision repair technician? And she said, a doctor. I said, I'm going to tell you why it's not. I says, if a doctor hurts someone, who gets hurt physically? She said, well, the people on the operating table or whatever. I says, and people emotionally after that, right? She goes, yeah. I says, let me ask you a question. With the insurance company putting pressure on these shops to get cars out the door, and a technician forgets to put a bolt on a piece of suspension, and that mom has some kids, that's her day to take kids to the school, and that bolt comes off the suspension, and that van goes in the other lane and takes out another van over on the other lane. I says, whose job do you think is more important now? She couldn't answer. She was stunned.
This is so important, and they keep turning just a blind eye. I mean, the insurance commissioner in our state is so frustrating because of what we can continually show them is going on, and they do nothing.
The lobbyists. It's the lobbyists, Michael. That's all it is. It's they have. When I was CAA president, California Auto Body Association president, back then, we were going to do a PAC, Political Action Committee, right? So we sent letters out to all the California Auto Body Association members. And I remember, because I was part of the committee, right? So we got like $75,000, So we went to the guy we were using in Sacramento for the Political Action Committee. And he laughed at us. And we go, why are you laughing? He goes, $75,000. He goes, that's not even a lunch, he said. There you go. There you go. That's not even a lunch. Wow. I remember that. I was shocked when he said that. And we were all proud. Oh, we got $75,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Michael, insurance in America, I read this article, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Premiums in, claims dollars out, and everything else is a $3 trillion a year industry. $3 trillion. Do you think a body shop has the ammunition to fight that? No way. No way.
And for the people that are listening, because there's probably some body shops listening. I mean, obviously they got an axe to grind, but the story here and the importance and what consumers need to hear is the racket and what's going on and how important it is to understand, to protect yourself, because it's the deck is stacked against you as a consumer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you, and I've said this a couple other times, not sure if I said it tonight, but Bob Clem, a friend of ours, used to say that people get into their second accident within 24 hours. And that's because they end up at the wrong shop.
Yeah. Yep.
In our state right now, in the state of Washington, I believe we've got 12 shops in the state that I'm confident enough that they're not in bed with an insurance company and that are going to fix your car right. There's only 12 or 10 to 12.
I hear you.
It's
And in probably 3 or 4 years, Mike, those guys will be gone.
Yeah.
They'll be gone.
Yeah.
They'll either close the doors like you did, or they'll sell to a consolidator, and that was it.
Yeah.
Quick question. My brother's a doctor in New York. He graduated from medical school, 5th in his class. He's a urologist, and he was chosen to go to Germany to train. This was back in the 80s with one of the world-known urologists. When he came back, his ticket was punched. He went to the bank. They gave him money to open an office, the whole thing. This was in 1987. 1993, 94, he calls me up. He goes, Rocco, he says, I'm done. I said, what do you mean, James? What do you mean you're done? He says, an operation that I was getting $6,000 for when I first started is down to $870. He says, I'm done. He said, what he did was he got a professorship at Columbia, and he taught. He didn't have to get up in the morning, wasn't on call. He went to school. He had a secretary, did his classes, and went home. And he was making more money there than he was making as a doctor. A doctor. And what he did was he took the route of what these guys are doing now. He consolidated. He got a group of doctors together who were getting beat up just like he was, and he opened up these clinics. He was one of the first groups way back in the 80s and 90s that started these, corner neighborhood, doctor's office or whatever they call them now. These quick clinics or whatever.
Yeah.
He was all up. He was from New York down to North Carolina, and that's what he did. He got out. Now that tells you something when a doctor tells you that.
Well, I'm sure most people are thinking about, yeah, but you look at these bills that you get when you go in for a procedure or service, and they're just so outrageous. And then you see how much it's discounted for the insurer, and then what the patient responsibility is. There's so many games that are being played. I mean, why are those numbers? They're
A quick one. I'm going to tell you a quick one. So you drop your car off at the shop. They give you a $10,000 estimate, right? So the insurance company comes in and they say, we're only going to give you $8,000. And the shop accepts it and fixes the car for $8,000. What do you think the consumer is thinking at that time?
Yeah, the shop's trying to rip somebody off.
No, they were going to rip me off.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I go through that insurance company, they were going to screw me out of the $2,000.
That's right. And my insurance company protected me.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Pete, you see, shops don't understand that. They think that, hey, it's a gimme that the consumer is going to think that it was the insurance company. It's the other way around.
Right.
When they leave and, it's $8,000 instead of 10, they believe that you were going to screw me.
Yeah. And they don't realize if the shop doesn't stand up to the insurance company, and they because they're afraid, they don't want to get blackballed. And believe me, I can give personal testimony about being blackballed, because we didn't roll over for them, right. and they blackballed us. I mean, I sued 2 insurance companies for interfering in my business because they were steering customers away.
Good for you.
Well, Rocco, we've kind of been all over the place tonight. I really appreciate your time. We're going to get together, and I want you then to go line by line on this court case that you had, and
with the improperly repaired vehicle.
And I'm going to have you show the pictures. So this is a teaser. So everybody, you need to tune in next week, and you need to hear what Rocco did for this single lady that had just a one big mess on her hands. So Rocco, thank you so much for your evening tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Mike, and good talking to you again.
I hope you got a lot out of that tonight, and I sure appreciate people that are willing to come on the show and share the information that they've learned over the years to help you understand, have a better understanding, so you know what to do, what to expect, and that the playground bully doesn't get over on you. So please help us. If you like the information, give us a thumbs up. You can also subscribe. I guess there's a button down here somewhere. All this stuff's a little bit, yeah, I'm from a different generation. But if you subscribe, it just lets us know that there's people out there that find this information helpful and they want to be able to hear more. We have next week, we're going to hear about a specific bad repair and how Rocco, with the help of an attorney, helped a lady through a very difficult situation, actually went to trial, and we're going to share that information. We're even going to look at some of the pictures. And so hopefully you tune in next week, and we have upcoming guests in weeks to come that I think you're going to find very interesting. So please subscribe. So with that, have a good evening. We'll see you same time, same place next week. This has been Crash Talk. Good night.